Mark Schlereth back here on the Rich Eisen Show from Fox Sports, three-time Super Bowl champion. Good to see you, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing good, Rich. How are you, my friend?
I'm just going to jump into the conversation that we were having at the end of hour number one about Matt LaFleur flat out asked in his media post-press conference last night after the Packers lose their first game at home after giving up 10 or fewer points, by the way, since Jim Harbaugh's Bears from Mike Ditka beat them 10-0 in Lambeau Field in 1991. So it's been a long time since they've seen a loss like this. And now they're 5-3-1. He was flat out asked about his job status. Do you think it's fair that Matt LaFleur is on a hot seat right now in Green Bay, Mark?
No. Matt LaFleur has been a hell of a coach. They've won a lot of games in Green Bay. No. Do I think that's fair? I think it's endemic of the National Football League right now, Rich. When you look around the National Football League, the level of inconsistency, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it's littered across the National Football League. So, you can sit there and say it's an injury issue. You can say, hey, it's a lack of preparation. It's a lack of continuity because of the way we practice or the lack thereof practice, all the different things that are attributing factors to the lack of consistent offensive play. And we've seen it with, we saw it on Thursday night between the Raiders and the Broncos and the lack of consistency on the offensive side of the ball, especially for the Broncos. We've seen it obviously in that Green Bay-Philadelphia game. We've seen Buffalo get shut out for 3 quarters against the Miami Dolphins. So we have seen this on a consistent basis throughout the season, and I think it points back to just the way we practice or the lack of practice, the lack of doing things in full pads, the things that have contributed to, offensive inconsistencies in this league.
Interesting. I mean, I'm going to call an Omaha here with my producer, Mike Hoskins. Put up the NFC and AFC standings because you're not wrong. With the NFC standings, you're talking about offensive inconsistency. The Eagles last night had it on the same field, right? And then you take a look at the Bears. That's been somewhat inconsistent. The Lions have a new play caller. His name is Dan Campbell. The Panthers are another example. The Vikings are another example for various reasons. The only outliers right now in that regard with 7-win teams, the Seahawks and the Rams, have not had those problems. And then you take a look at the American Football Conference. You mentioned the Bills being one of them. The Chiefs, had a nice stretch, but we've seen some up and down play from there. The Broncos, my goodness gracious, either there's a fourth quarter wake up or there isn't, but it doesn't matter when they're 8-2. The Steelers, we just saw it against the Chargers on Sunday night. The Colts and the Patriots may be outliers there as well. So you think it's an inconsistency due to practice and the way that I guess the collective bargaining agreement overall sets up the way players can be utilized in season and not, Mark?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think the other thing that happens is when you don't practice that way, it's really hard to establish an identity. This is what we are. And so, like, when I travel around the league calling games, it's unbelievable how much is called at the line of scrimmage. And it's always been, there's always been that kind of check with me or can it packages across the National Football League. But in today's game, like 80-90%, it feels like it's called at the line of scrimmage. Like, hey, we're going into the line of scrimmage with multiple plays. Like, we can run this or we can run that. Hey, if the strong safety's down, we're checking to a weak side run. If the weak safety's down, we're checking to a strong side run. If they keep 2 safeties up, we're going to check to a pass. And ultimately, it's to say, hey, we want to get a premium play based upon the look we're getting. Well, the problem is those looks change. The other problem is when you're always kind of waiting around as an offense, it's hard to establish an identity. It's hard to just come off the ball and shorten somebody's neck because you're always just kind of waiting around to see and letting the defense kind of dictate what we're going to do as an offense. And some of that is because you don't get to practice a lot of those things in the regular season. You don't get to say, hey, man, this is what we run. We're going to come off and, in my time, I'm sure you've seen Dodgeball, the movie Dodgeball, one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
But Global Gym, Global Gyms, their motto was, we're better than you, and we know it. And so in my day, like we would line up and just say, we're going to whip your ass because we've run this 10,000 times. You've defended it 100 times. We're better at it than you. So you can line up in anything you want to line up. I've done everything. It's like you can line up in a 57 front, a 4-3 front, a 25 front. You can line up in 3-4 front. You can line up in anything you want. We're going to line up and we're going to whip you because we've done it so much more than you. Well, that's not how the game is played today anymore because you don't get to put those pads on. You don't get to work those reps in practice. We've got to save everybody's, not only everybody's health, but we got to save everybody's feelings nowadays. We can't hurt anybody's feelings because then that would be a penalty worse than I don't know what. But anyhow, those are the things that are going on in today's game. And I think it's one of the reasons you see so much inconsistency from the offensive side of the ball.
So are you saying when you're wondering why the Eagles don't have an identity, they should throw a wrench at it? Is that what you're saying? Like if you don't have a ball, you should just take a wrench? Sort of
yes. Because if you can dodge a ball, you can dodge a wrench. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows that.
Well, I mean, in that respect, Mark, though, is how does a team whose identity was so clear last year with the Eagles, have trouble finding it this year? Is it as simple as their offensive coordinator is new? I mean, let's turn the page to the Eagles side of things. Are any concerns here for a team that otherwise is atop the conference, despite how ugly it looks at times?
And part of that is the growth. Like, hey, listen, new coordinator. It's always to get on that same page and have that same feeling. Like I'm a big believer in. If we go up to a certain situation, and we always talk about situational football, I get into a certain situation and it's 3rd down and 2 or 2nd down and 2, whatever it is. And I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, 3 plays are coming in. These are the 3 plays we run in this situation. And it doesn't matter that the defense knows because, again, we're better than you and we know it. And so there's comfort in that. There's consistency and continuity in that. And I think that that's part of the learning curve when you get a new coordinator. The other thing for them is, hey, listen, we ran the ball so effectively last year. Well, some of our offensive line has changed. We've had some injuries on the offensive line. We changed our right guard. So there's a lack of continuity there. So that changes a little bit. The other thing is, can we continue to put our quarterback in harm's way with the run stuff that we do? We want to develop into more of a drop back passing, organization. So that's part of the change that goes on. And then all of a sudden you feel, you get 8, 9, 10 games in, you're like, yeah, we're not very productive doing what we're doing right now. And so I think all of that feeds into it, where you want to grow as an offense, how you want to, develop as an offense. And then you've got, are your wide receivers complaining? You're like, do they want the ball more? Is AJ Brown happy? So I think there's a lot of these things that go into trying to grow an offense sometimes. And I'm just a big believer in when things aren't working, Rich, and this is just from experience of playing and then calling games and being around the NFL, most of my adult life, is that anytime that I have struggled or we have struggled as an offense, the answer is always simple it down. That's always the answer. Because when you have it as complex and it becomes so complex that people have to think, I mean, we're a game full of PE majors, right? I mean, honestly, like I'm a general studies. I have a general studies degree from the University of Idaho, right? So like my education's an inch deep and a mile wide. Keep the questions, general, and I can answer them. Get specific, and we're going to be in trouble. So like, I think there's an aspect of it as I want to be as aggressive as possible, and the more I have to think, the slower I end up playing. And that's part of you've got to call an offense not based on all the things you can do, but you've got to call an offense based on the dumbest guy you have on the offensive side of the ball, right? We got to make sure that guy doesn't screw up. And so you've got to be able to, like, we may have a bunch of smart dudes, right? And a bunch of guys that can assimilate and really understand multiple complex kind of play calls and all that stuff. But if we got one dumb dude on the offensive line or one dumb dude in the backfield, then we got to dumb our offense down to that guy's level so that we can be successful. And you got to realize that you'll never make up for that dude if he can't handle, the calls and the checks and all the different things that we do as an offense.
Mark Schlereth, keeping it simple here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Yes.
Sometimes you just waste your time with complexities. If there's there's one dumb guy, doesn't matter how many Harvard or Stanford grads are on your team, it's the lowest common denominator bringing you down.
The weakest link.
Fantastic. So who's the best team in the NFL entering Week 11? I was talking over the last couple days, Mark, of seriously, I can't recall a more wide open Super Bowl race in my time.
I'll answer your question. The team right now that I think is the best team on film that I've watched, the Rams.
Okay.
I think the Rams are. I think obviously both lines of scrimmage they can play defensively. They can get after the quarterback. They can do all those things. I think one of the cool things for me is going back to Sean McVay when he first got to the Rams. I remember doing a game, maybe his first or second year, and they were in 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, 98% of the time. The only time they got out of 11 personnel was at the end of the half or the end of the game when they were going kneel down, essentially, to get out of the half or get out of the game, right? They won, victory formation, they got out of it. Right now, when you watch them, they probably are the number 1 team in football when it comes to 3 tight end formations, 2 tight end formations. They got 4 dudes that play tight end. They can all play, and they all are cookie cutters, right? They're all like 6'5", 250. They can all run. They can all block on the edge. They can all pass protect. That's a problem. It's a problem for NFL teams because you dictate to the defense. And so they've got all these dudes, and ultimately when they get into these heavy formations, you want to match them in heavy personnel, right? You want to bring in your big-bodied linebackers and all that stuff. And this is just science, Rich. I haven't checked it out with anybody other than me. Again, it goes to the general studies aspect of this, but fat guys don't run as fast as skinny guys. So I want to get as many fat guys on defense out there playing as I possibly can. And because of the tight end formations they use, they get a lot of fat guys that don't run as fast. There are great matchups for those guys, and they're cutting people up on the offensive side of the ball, and their quarterback has been lights out.
Yeah, and so the defense doesn't know what play's coming from the same formation, and that's been a McVay staple for 9 years. So you choose them as the best in football. Who's the best in the AFC? You got 8 win teams in 3 different spots. And it's, I know the Colts just bounced back and Jonathan Taylor may be the MVP of the league, but the Patriots, who you've seen in recent days, Mark, I know everybody's waiting for the pumpkin to come, out of the carriage here, but I don't know, man. Vrabel's got them cooked up, and along with McDaniels and Drake May, and the rookies are doing all right. They had a hell of a draft. They're all playing well. They're all contributing. Christian Gonzalez may be the best defensive player people don't talk about. They're for real, Mark. I kind of went high register there, but I mean, who's the best in the AFC? What do you got for me?
Yeah, they are for real. I don't think there's any question. And I wouldn't hesitate to put the New England Patriots there. I mean, they're exceptionally well coached under Mike Vrabel, and you can say what you want about Josh McDaniels as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, that dude knows what he's doing. And the way Drake May is playing, I mean, they are so good. And it's interesting to watch Drake May, how they're operating as an offense, how they're giving him the front side of the read 1 to 2. And then, and to having a conversation with Josh McDaniels, he goes, hey, 1 to 2, I'd like him to get to 3 or 4. And he does occasionally, but most of the time it's 1, 2, take off, go make something happen with your feet, go sit, make something happen with your legs. And there's this natural progression that's going on right now as he is growing as a quarterback. And they're allowing that to happen. They're not trying to force it to happen. They're allowing it to happen on a natural level, and he's athletic enough to bail himself out of situations. And then they're exceptionally well coached. Did you see Henderson running down the sideline and then looking over at Vrabel to go, "Can I go in here, or do you want me to kneel? Like, what do you want me to do?" It's just it's phenomenal to watch. And I've been out there. I've done a couple of their games. Watch Mike Vrabel in practice. Watch the way this team works. The attention to detail. I think they're as well coached as any team in the National Football League, and their players are playing lights out football right now. And they're big and physical. So, it's a Vrabel trait. We're going to play exceptionally smart. We're going to be big, and we're going to be physical. And control both lines of scrimmage. And that's what they've been able to do.
And then, of course, in the AFC, there's 2 division winners, and year in and year out. Well, I guess 3, right? I mean, 4. My goodness gracious. I'm on the fly here. Chiefs have sat atop the AFC West forever and a day. The Bills atop the AFC East forever and a day. The Texans, who you're seeing against the Titans calling on Fox this week, Mark, with a big comeback win over the Jaguars to keep any hopes that they have alive of making the playoffs, maybe as a wild card because the Colts are so far in front of them. And then you got the Ravens at 4-5, now just a game behind in the AFC North. Which of those 4 teams do you think that usually come up on top will, in fact, win their division? You could say none if you want, Mark. What do you think?
I think the Ravens will win that North division, and I think that. Yeah, and I think the Ravens, at the end of the day, with health, because they had 4 or 5 guys on the defensive side of the ball that weren't playing. Obviously, Lamar wasn't playing for a while. So, and I just believe that the rest of that division with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Browns, not very good. Browns are awesome on defense, but just not overall very good football team right now. And then I think the Steelers are kind of paper tigers at this particular point in time. So I think the Ravens are going to come out and win that division.
All right, so let me remove Ravens from it. Texans, who you're seeing, Bills, and I'm going to put you in a spot. I know you're seeing the Texans this week. Bills or Chiefs. One of those 3 win their division or none. What do you think? Call your shot here.
I think the Chiefs have a chance still to win. The Chargers have had all kinds of injuries. They're sitting at 7-3 right now, but they're an inconsistent football team. Not that the Chiefs aren't. The Broncos, outstanding defense. They play this weekend, the Broncos and the Chiefs, outstanding defense, but they have sputtered on offense. If not for a couple of fourth quarters, that team would be in 3rd place in the AFC West right now. So I think the Chiefs still have a chance to rectify things. Andy Reid coming off a bye week. We know he's like 21-4 or something ridiculous coming off the bye week. So I think the Chiefs have a chance to still win this division, only a couple of games behind or a game behind, I guess, the Chargers, and a couple of games behind the Broncos.
His podcast, Stinkin Truth Podcast with Mark Schlereth. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, check Mark out with the Titans and Texans on Fox in the early window of a terrific Week 11. Thanks for the time, as always, brother. You make us smarter and laugh at the same time. Thanks.
I appreciate you, Rich. Take care, buddy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. General Studies from Idaho himself, Mark Schlereth, studying generally here on the Rich Eisen
Show. An inch deep and a mile long. I've never heard that before. Mark.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.